In this video, we're going to take a look at a lot of different screens of the Chartbrew Dashboard up and running in my environment, which includes the cloud hosting environments of Heroku and Vercel. Here we are looking at the Chartbrew Plugin screen, and as it says, bringing the data visualization power of Chartbrew directly to the Strapi Dashboard. Visualize your collection data, that would be your collection types in Strapi, with multi-dashboard support. And if I scroll down here, you'll see more information about the Chartbrew plugin for Strapi. And right here is an important point. Getting started with Chartbrew. To use this plugin, you will need to have a Chartbrew account, which is on the Chartbrew platform in the cloud, or self-host a platform. And that's what I will be doing here in this video and in the other related videos. So this screen here shows the URL of my current running Chartbrew dashboard, and you can see here there is a list of different connections that you can make. The one that we'll be using in my videos will be this API connection, and so it allows you to configure different connections to different APIs and use authentication if needed. Right now we're not going to be setting that up, but I'm just showing these initial screens of how to use the Chartbrew dashboard. So you have like your dashboard here. Since I don't have anything created yet, which we'll do in a later video, you would click get started, and then once you set up your connections, you can start creating your dashboards and data visualizations, but we'll get to that. Next is the Heroku backend. So that's this thing I called here Chartbrew Home. So I clicked on that, and then we'll go ahead and go into the Chartbrew pipeline settings, and we can see here that it's been deployed. If we look at the deploy list, we can see that it is connected to GitHub, and back on the overview screen, like it was deployed as of yesterday. And you can look at the build log and see, what happened during the Heroku build. And another thing to point out here is that you have to have a database set up for the dashboard to work, and that's this JawsDB MySQL. So that is actually installed right now and configured. And I did that first before I did anything else. I set up this Heroku account, set up the MySQL, and you have to go into the settings and you click on this reveal config vars, and because it has some sensitive information in it, I won't be showing those in this video, but that is where you have to add in the specific configuration variables that I will talk about a little later. And a couple other things to point out, the build packs. Here I have the Heroku node.js, and most importantly, I have this subdirectory Heroku build pack. And one of the configuration variables has like a path. And so since this is the server side, you put in the project path equal to server, and then it knows in the GitHub account which folder to access the code that runs this whole back end. And then we come to the front end. So here is the Chartbrew front end running in Vercel, and you can see the login screen here. It knows that it's running, so it went and captured a screenshot of the login page, and here you can see the domain name of the front end, and that's what I showed back here in this screen. So this is actually running on Vercel, as you can see in the URL. And so we'll be taking a look at that in a little bit. Two other things to point out. Here is the GitHub repo. It's called Mr. Dashboard 2022, and I forked the Chartbrew code from their account into my account, and I was able to make some minor changes for the purposes of this video. So here we can see there is a client folder, which is what's running the front end that we saw. And if we go back one directory and look at the server folder, that's what's running the back end for all of this Chartbrew dashboard. And if we click on this screen here, we can see this is what you will see in your web browser once you know everything's up and running for the Chartbrew backend. You want to see this message here, welcome to the Chartbrew server API. You really won't see anything other than that, but once you get to that point in this whole process, you'll know that you're good and your backend Chartbrew is up and running properly. And take note of the URL. It's chartbrewhomepipeline1.herokuapp.com. And if we go back and look in here, we can see right here the URL chartbrewhomepipeline1.herokuapp.com. That's important to know what that is. So that's the back end of this whole Chartbrew dashboard. Now, I say all this because in order to get the Chartbrew Strapi plugin working, you need to have all of these things set up. And I will be going through a series of screens and screenshots to show on my Windows 10 machine how I went ahead and got all this set up. I also wanted to show here in my Vercel deployment screen, you can see I did 3 deployments recently, and if we click on one of these, it will go ahead and load up some additional information about it. So here we can see the individual deployment screen and that it says it's ready, it's in production. It took 3 minutes and 39 seconds to go ahead and get it deployed. And we can look in the building deployment status section here. And there's a lot of information that shows what happened behind the scenes when it built this Chartbrew dashboard. And here I've gone to the project settings screens for this Vercel application. And so you can see the Chartbrew is the project name and the build and development settings. The root directory I specified as client, that's important. That matches what we saw in the source code. The client folder that I had mentioned, that would be right here under client. So that's what it's talking about when it says client. The other thing I wanted to point out was environment variables. So here you can see I've clicked on environment variables and you can see these two, React App Client Host and React App API Host. So if we look at those, you can see that has the URL of this application that we're looking at here on the client side. And if we look at the API host, that is the other URL that I mentioned for the backend. So those two are important to know and to have in place here in your Vercel settings. If you don't have those, the Chartbrew application will not work. A few other things worth mentioning here on the Git tab. We can see the Mr. Dashboard 2022/Chartbrew. That is the GitHub repo that's being used, and you can see the production branch. It's actually called master. That's the way it was set up. And here you can see under the domain project settings, this is the URL chartbrew-blush.vercel.app. That is the front end where we were looking at the Chartbrew dashboard. That's right here. So that's where it gets that from. So hopefully that's helpful. It shows you a lot of the backend like screens and processes that were put in place in order to make this Chartbrew work. And again, I did all this on a Windows 10 machine. And in the next video, we will be taking a look at a lot more details of the types of tools that I installed and the processes that I went through in order to get this all up and running. If you like this channel, please like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when I post new content.